You wake up, another day begins. The sky might be different, but the feeling is the same. Rushed, foggy, loud. You move through your morning with precision, yet you feel strangely absent, as if your body showed up, but your soul stayed in bed. There was a time when mornings felt like beginnings. Now, they feel like maintenance. You check your messages, scroll a little, respond to someone you don't remember adding. Another task appears, another notification blinks. You tell yourself it's just the rhythm of life, but deep down, you know, it's a rhythm you never chose. You're dancing to a song that doesn't move you. Everything seems urgent, everything screams now, but not everything is important. And the more you respond to urgency, the more you abandon what truly matters. It's a betrayal that comes in small steps. One skipped prayer, one ignored walk, one postponed hug. Have you ever been busy doing nothing? It happens when your calendar is full, but your heart is empty. When your efforts build sandcastles that vanish with the next wave of distraction. You work, you answer, you run. But at the end of the day, the mirror still looks back with that question: was any of this truly meaningful? Take a look around. Clutter isn't just physical. It lives in your thoughts, your habits, your attention. It sneaks in when you say yes to what you should have declined. When you entertain what you should have ignored. It grows in silence, fed by avoidance. Noise isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet pull of a screen, the endless scroll of comparison, the pressure to be everywhere, for everyone, all the time. But in that chaos, one voice goes unheard, the only one that truly matters: yours. This voice used to guide you, remind you, protect you. It whispered when something felt wrong, it cheered when you were aligned. But when you keep saying yes to the unimportant, that voice fades. It doesn't disappear, you just forget how to hear it. Ask yourself now, what have you accepted as normal that's actually stealing your peace? When did you begin to treat time like a burden instead of a blessing? What if the exhaustion isn't from doing too much, but from doing too little of what matters? Let's pause here. What are you feeling so far? What part of this reflection touched something inside you? Share it. Speak it. Write it. Don't let the clutter win again today. Thank you for being here until now. Your time is precious, and I honor it deeply. The best parts of this story are still to come, and you, yes, you, are not just listening to a story. You're remembering your own. There's a moment, often ignored, when your heart hesitates before you say yes. It's a sacred pause, a whisper from within asking, is this really for me? Most of us silence it. We say yes to be polite, to be productive, to be needed. But every unnecessary yes steals space from a necessary no. The truth is, it's easier to stay distracted than to sit with what hurts. Noise keeps us from noticing the ache. Activity keeps us from acknowledging the void. But nothing heals in chaos. The soul needs quiet, stillness, and honesty to breathe again. Busyness has become a badge. If your schedule is full, people assume you're doing well. But full isn't the same as fulfilled. You can be completely booked and still feel completely lost. The applause of others won't fix the emptiness of a misplaced life. Imagine your life as a garden. What are you watering? What have you neglected? Time and attention are your tools. But when you pour them over weeds, the flowers suffer. The weeds grow strong, not because they're valuable, but because they're constantly fed. Many of us inherited habits that no longer serve us. We learned to rush, to multitask, to keep going. But we rarely learned how to pause, how to reflect, how to return to center. It's not weakness to stop, it's wisdom. Even rest has been corrupted. We now rest with guilt, as if slowing down is a sin. But rest is holy. It's restoration. Even God rested, not because he needed to, but to show us how. When you resist rest, you reject one of the most divine rhythms of life. Routines are not the enemy, but routines without reflection are. When you do the same things for the wrong reasons, you slowly lose the reason you began. Familiarity can become a cage if it's never challenged. Clearing your life of clutter doesn't begin in the closet. It begins in the soul. You start by asking, what truly matters to me? What brings me closer to peace, to purpose, to God? The answers may be simple, but they are rarely easy. Letting go is painful. Not because of the things themselves, but because of what they represent. Expectations, approval, identity. But you are not what you own, what you schedule, or what you achieve. You are far more eternal than any to-do list. And here's the secret most avoid. Simplicity is not about having less. It's about living with clarity, knowing who you are, what you're called to, and what no longer deserves a place in your day. When you say no to the unnecessary, something beautiful happens. Your soul begins to breathe again. The weight lifts, space opens. And in that space, you can finally hear the quiet call of what matters most. That still, small voice was never gone. It was just buried beneath the noise. Many people confuse productivity with purpose, but doing more isn't the same as doing what matters. You weren't created to check boxes. You were created to bear fruit, and fruit doesn't grow under pressure. It grows in light, time, and care. Distractions often disguise themselves as responsibilities. You say yes because it feels noble, because you don't want to disappoint, but inside there's a fracture between who you are and what you're pretending to carry. You were not built to carry everything. If you look back at your life, the moments you remember most are rarely the busy ones. They're quiet, soft, sometimes awkward, a look, a laugh, a prayer. Those are the treasures. And yet, we keep trading them for the illusion of importance. There is a danger in constantly being available. If you're always reachable, you become unreachable to your own soul. You were never meant to be on call for everyone. Even Christ withdrew from the crowds, not because he didn't care, but because he did. Clarity doesn't scream. It waits. It waits for silence, for space, for attention, and in the stillness, it speaks with conviction. The reason so many feel lost isn't because they lack answers, but because they've forgotten how to listen. Every invitation, every request, every open door is not yours to walk through. Some are distractions, some are tests, some are meant to show you how much you've grown. Wisdom is knowing which ones to gently decline and why. The world will always ask for more time, more energy, more of your peace, but you are not obligated to say yes to a world that doesn't know your purpose. Your worth was never tied to how much you produce. There's a freedom that comes when you no longer fear missing out, when you trust that you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. That kind of confidence doesn't come from control, it comes from surrender. You cannot declutter your life without confronting your heart. The clutter outside is just a reflection of the clutter within. So, the real work starts inside, by asking hard questions, being honest with your answers, and having the courage to act on them. There is a kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. It's the tiredness of living misaligned, of spending your days chasing what doesn't feed your soul. It creeps in quietly, but it speaks loudly when the silence finally arrives. People often say, "I don't have time." But the truth is, we all have time. We just spend it, often carelessly, on things, on approval, on habits we never chose. And every moment we give to the meaningless is one less moment for what's sacred. Start noticing how often you say yes out of fear of missing out, of being forgotten, of not being needed. But any yes born from fear leads to a life shaped by anxiety. And fear is a terrible architect of destiny. When you learn to pause, to question, to wait, you take back power. You stop reacting and start responding. You begin to live on purpose. And in that stillness, you find the space to choose with clarity instead of compulsion. Your calendar should reflect your convictions, not your guilt, not your need for approval. Every block of time is a declaration of what you value. What have you been declaring lately? Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is cancel something, not because you're lazy, but because your peace matters, because you've learned that your presence is sacred and it shouldn't be wasted on places that drain your spirit. You weren't created to be overwhelmed. You were created to walk in peace. That doesn't mean life won't be full, but fullness is not the same as chaos. God is a God of order, of rhythm, of meaning. So why do we keep accepting disorder as normal? Your value isn't measured by how exhausted you are at the end of the day. That's a lie society told you. Real strength is knowing when to stop, when to say no, when to rest, when to step back and ask, is this truly mine to carry? Think of your attention as currency. Where you spend it reveals what you worship. If your days are consumed by distractions, it's not just your time being stolen, it's your devotion. So today, choose one thing to release, just one, a habit, a commitment, a lie. Make space, and notice what begins to grow when you stop feeding the clutter. Freedom doesn't come when everything is done. It comes when you decide that not everything must be done. It's a shift in posture, from striving to surrender, from performance to presence. Real life begins where pressure ends. Some of the things you're holding on to are not blessings. They're burdens dressed in disguise. You keep them because they once made sense. But seasons change, and what once served you may now be suffocating you. Look around. Look inside. What are you clinging to that no longer fits who you are becoming? Growth demands release. The tree doesn't mourn its leaves when autumn comes. It trusts the process. It trusts the pruning. Faith is not just about believing in God, it's about trusting His order. Trusting that when He calls you to rest, to let go, to simplify, it's not punishment, it's protection. He's not taking from you, He's freeing you. You were never meant to carry the whole world. That weight will crush you. You are invited to carry only what is yours, nothing more. The rest belongs to God. And in letting go, you find a kind of peace that striving can never earn. Your life is not meant to be filled. It's meant to be poured. But you can't pour what you don't possess. And when you give away all your time to things that drain you, there's nothing left to offer to those who matter most. Start noticing how your body responds to certain tasks, certain people, certain places. Peace has a feel. So does pressure. Learn to discern the difference. Your nervous system often knows the truth before your mind is ready to accept it. You may have to disappoint others to be true to yourself. That's not cruelty, that's integrity. It's the holy tension between pleasing people and pleasing God. And when you choose obedience over approval, you begin to truly live. Simplicity is not a trend, it's a return to the garden, to still waters, to quiet mornings with open hands and unhurried prayers, to the life we were designed for, not the one we were sold. What if the breakthrough you seek isn't ahead of you, but beneath the clutter? What if the clarity you crave has been waiting, not to be added, but uncovered? Sometimes the answer isn't more, it's less. There's a reason your soul longs for quiet. In the silence, God speaks, not always with words, but with peace, with alignment, with reminders of who you are and whose you are. Noise distracts, stillness restores. You don't need another planner, you need a new posture, one of surrender. One that says, I will no longer let the world set the pace of my soul. I will no longer measure success by busyness. I will live by peace. Letting go is a practice, and like any practice, it takes repetition. Some days, you'll do it well. Other days, the clutter will creep back in. That's okay. Begin again, release again, trust again. You are not behind, you are returning. This is not about perfection. It's about presence, being where your feet are, giving your full self to fewer things, and discovering that in the end, less truly is more, if it's the right things. Stop waiting for a quieter season. Create one. Say no more often. Say yes more intentionally. Protect the space where joy lives. Guard the hours that shape your heart. Choose to build a life you don't need to escape from. You're not failing because you're tired. You're tired because you've been living disconnected from what gives you life. And now, by grace, you're awakening. You're remembering. You're returning to the sacred rhythm of meaning. Every act of release is an act of faith. Faith that you are not missing out, that your value is not tied to how much you do, that peace is a promise, not a luxury, and that God honors those who honor their time. The greatest clutter is not on your desk, it's in your beliefs. The lie that you must earn rest, that you must prove your worth, that you must stay busy to be seen. Burn those lies. They don't belong in your story anymore. It is not selfish to simplify, it is spiritual. Because when you remove what drains you, you make room for what fills you. Love, stillness, gratitude, purpose, things that don't shout but never stop calling. So here we are. You've walked this path with open eyes and a willing heart. Now the choice is yours. Keep living as you always have, or honor the whisper. Make space, protect your peace, and never again clutter your days with unimportant things.